I, Songun Huang, affirm that this evidence is of my own authorship. I have not appealed to plagiarism in any of its forms, and I established that in preparing and developing this activity, I have followed the guidelines of the Tecnológico de Monterrey Code of Ethics. Environmental issues like plastic waste and climate change are real and pressing problems that require our immediate attention. We need to understand the difference between genuine action and superficial, marketing-driven solutions. The Zero Waste Life campaign claims to tackle plastic waste by promoting eco-friendly products, but is it genuinely solving the problem or simply capitalizing on it? Let's explore some campaign's objective and actions. Zero Waste Life wants to reduce waste by encouraging consumers to buy sustainable products. However, its main focus seems to be on consumer behavior rather than challenging the core issues of overproduction and waste generation. The campaign uses social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook to reach its audience. By partnering with influencers, it creates a sense of urgency around buying sustainable products, yet fails to address the larger environmental crisis. While the campaign touts sustainability, its reliance on selling more products contributes to a cycle of overconsumption. True sustainability should involve reducing the need for new products altogether. However, not all zero waste campaigns are truly committed to sustainability. Some companies, like Lush, market themselves as eco-conscious with slogans like naked packaging and solid shampoo bars. While they do take some sustainable steps, their supply chain still heavily relies on imported ingredients, and many stores lack proper recycling or refill systems. This shows how the term zero waste is sometimes used for branding than for genuine environmental action. It creates a false sense of progress, making consumers believe they're helping the planet while structural issues remain untouched. Another curious example comes from Haagen-Dazs Japan, which launched a campaign featuring edible ice cream lids as a fun zero waste initiative. They promoted it as a sustainable alternative to reduce plastic waste, turning the lid into a cookie you can eat with your dessert. While the idea appeared innovative, the product still used a plastic container, and the campaign didn't eliminate any real environmental burden. Critics pointed out that this was a form of symbolic action rather than structural change, a creative idea that distracts from the real issue of plastic overuse. It reflects how superficial innovations can be misleading when they aren't accompanied by systemic solutions. The campaign presents a misleading narrative. By simply purchasing eco-friendly products, consumers believe they're making a significant impact. This narrative fails to address the true scope of environmental damage caused by mass production. On social media, many users feel good about liking or sharing content related to the campaign, but does this actually lead to change? More often than not, these small actions are just activism, feel-good actions that lack real-world impact. This campaign targets individual consumers without considering systemic issues. It leaves out important conversations on how companies and governments must be held accountable for the large-scale production of waste. The campaign employs logical fallacies like appeal to authority, where influencers with no real environmental expertise are presented as experts. This is misleading and undermines the campaign's credibility. While the campaign encourages positive behavior, it overlooks the core issue: overconsumption. Instead of promoting reduction in waste production, it incentivizes buying more, which ultimately harms the environment. The emotional appeal in the campaign draws on feelings of guilt and responsibility. It pushes consumers to act quickly to save the planet, but in reality, these actions are not enough to address the larger environmental crisis. The very act of encouraging the purchase of more products contradicts the campaign's supposed goal of waste reduction. In reality, it promotes a cycle of consumption that feeds into the environmental crisis it claims to solve. For this campaign to be effective, it needs to go beyond individual action and tackle the root causes of plastic waste. A shift toward reducing production and fostering sustainable industry practices must be at the heart of any solution. To implement real change, the campaign should collaborate with governments, industries, and local communities. A collective effort can lead to a sustainable future where waste is minimized and environmental responsibility is prioritized. We all have a role to play in protecting our planet. Let's move beyond greenwashing and focus on real, impactful change. It's time to demand accountability and take responsibility for our actions. Real change doesn't always come from massive campaigns. It begins with small, consistent actions. Use what you already have. Choose reusable over disposable. Support local businesses that practice transparency. Reflect on your habits. What do you throw away daily? Could it be avoided? Sustainability isn't perfection, it's progress, one conscious choice at a time. But for true impact, we need collective pressure. Demand that brands back their words with measurable action. Advocate for laws that regulate green claims. Support journalism that questions shallow campaigns. Together we can shift the focus from image to substance, from saying the right thing to doing the right thing. The future we want is built through community, courage, and commitment.
Hi, my name is Hong Hong, and this is my 3-2-1 reflection video based on the documentary I created about greenwashing and zero waste campaigns. The 3 things I didn't know before this project, but now I do, is that I didn't realize how many companies use the zero waste label without really changing their production or reducing environmental harm. The second one I learned is that I learned the differences between real environmental action and activism, and how media can manipulate our emotions to create a false sense of action. The third thing that I didn't know before this project, but now I do, is that I became more aware of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially how some campaigns can actually limit their impact instead of supporting them. The 2 things I'd like to learn more about is that I want to explore more about how governments regulate or fail to regulate greenwashing in corporate advertising, and I'm curious about how social media movements can move from just sharing points to inspiring real environmental activism. One thing I will change in my life is that I will be careful of the brands that I support and make sure that their values match their actions. I want to reduce waste more consciously and support initiatives that are truly sustainable, not just performative.